All right, Yo Joe, here we go. This is Jason, also known as Omnus Prime, and today we're going to be taking a look at Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. This was a recent release through Hasbro Pulse, and this is their relaunching of the 3 3/4 inch figures that we had in the 80s and 90s, and this was before they started going with a different scale of 4 inches. And this is what I grew up with. And we have this beautiful artwork that you can see here. These two are constantly in the comics battling each other. In the cartoon, they tended to have Storm Shadow square off against Spirit, but most people know them for being Arashikage ninjas and trained and having a falling out. So this is why they're incorporated together here. And you can see that there's not really any artwork here on the side. There at the top, it's kind of like there's a handle here. Nothing on this side. And down here, what this was storage for additional equipment. On the back here, we have the same artwork that we had on the front, but no file cards were included in here. Instead, what was done is, let me go ahead and open this up here. Now, before we get into looking what's inside, there's like a foot locker, the way this was set here, for the additional equipment, which is like a weapons pack. Back in the day, you could buy weapons packs separately, and they wouldn't come in this. They would come kind of like on a file card and have like a bunch of weapons included there. And you can see the figures are already out. But on the inside, what you would have received is them on card here with the equipments. For some reason, when they made these, they decided not to go with the white border that typically would be on the outside of the card here. That's how it was in the 80s and 90s. They do have the artwork on here, but they also went with thinner cardstock, so it kind of bows because of the plastic bubble here. It pulls on it. And this is how the file cards come currently. Because this is no longer, for the most part, just for the US. They also, during the 80s and 90s, had Action Force, which was done in for like Britain. So they had their own version of it. For the most part, the characters were the same, it's just their stories were different. But you can see that it's very short on what's included in here. And in some ways, I wish they had like a QR code to where you could have like got the different languages available, but you would get the full file card instead of just a short roll, because you don't really have much of a description of who Snake Eyes is, for instance. They do have a listing of the different characters that are coming, and they've since been announced. So if you're interested in these, you can still get them on Hasbro Pulse. I'm just going to go and put these file cards here in the back. And let me go ahead and pull out Storm Shadows, so you can take a look here. And this is the classic artwork. You would go into the store, a hole would be punched, it would be hanging on a hook. You could see what weapons they came with. What used to happen is on the sides here, it would have a listing of what the weapons were that you would get. Again, you'd have that white border. Here they added some details here in a bunch of different languages here. And again, this is for more of an international audience, which G.I. Joe was branded as an international product. But you can see it doesn't talk about anything to do with his motivations and why he's in Cobra or anything like that, and what he does, or anything about his temperament. The artwork is true to what we would expect for G.I. Joe. Fortunately, I don't have any of the old file cards for any of my older G.I. Joe stuff. Unfortunately, I believe that in the cleaning that occurred over at my parents' home where I had left these, and they got thrown out or given to neighborhood children. So I will be kind of building up the ranks again through these releases from Hasbro. And let's go ahead and start with Storm Shadow here. Now, Storm Shadow, this is the nunchaku that he has here. It's part of the weapons pack. They came with a pair of these. I'm just going to put this back here. And also came with an Uzi. No paint on these, but there's actually quite a bit of sculpted detail that's on this. Came with a stand here, and came with this weapon set, which includes a bow and arrow and 2 swords. And all this stores into his backpack here, which is really cool. And the backpack actually opens up here. I'm just trying to remember what side it opens on. You have the hinges here, so it would open up this way. But you can just slide the bow into here with the quiver. And the swords do just fit in, and there's a pair of the same swords here between the two. Well, one's a little shorter than the other. Again, none of them are painted. That's alright. I don't recall there being much paint on these. And let's go ahead and take a look at the sculpt work that they did here on Storm Shadow. As you can see, there's a lot of sculpted detail here, and it's almost exactly what I remember back in the 80s. Differences here is he doesn't have eyelashes or eyeliner that he had like in the 80s, and the eyebrows are a little thinner. I do like that they painted the pins here so they're white instead of just being silver. And for articulation on this guy, his head is on it's like a swivel. It's not on a ball joint like they started to do with the later figures. And you get full rotation here. You can go out to there. And you get the bicep swivel, and you got an elbow bend. That'll give you 90 degrees. I'm showing you here with Storm Shadow. It's going to be the same with Snake Eyes, so I'm not going to go through that with him. And this is an O-ring figure. I don't want to pull too hard, but this is why they're called an O-ring figure. There's a hook that's on the inside, a metal hook, that's pinned to the legs here. And what that does is it allows for a lot of motion that's able to get done here. And when I was a kid, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And what we did as kids is there's a screw back here, and you would undo that, and this will allow you to take the torso apart. And there's the O-ring would extend around a post that's in here. And we would mix and match the different parts of different Joes to make our own figures. I'm not doing that with these. And just to continue on with our articulation here, you can kick up to here. There's not much motion back because he's got a butt. And on his butt you can see he's got some writing here. Let's see if it comes up here on screen. But it says 2022 Hasbro. It's the letter S and A, made in Vietnam. And then it has his code for his product. And on the leg here, let's see, it's got kind of like a stamp here for his model. For the knee, it bends a little bit. Well, I would say it's just 90. It looks like it goes a little bit further back, but it's not really. And it's got holes on the bottom of his feet that'll peg into the stands. But there's good painted detail on here for the additional weaponry that's on his sash, as well as weapons tucked into his belt. And for the most part, I'm satisfied with this figure. It's very much what I remember as a kid. And I was fortunate to get in on the Sky Striker that they had what's called a HasLab for. And with the HasLab, there's going to be additional 3 3/4 inch figures that'll be coming. And then I'll have 2 Sky Strikers actually that'll be coming in. And that'll be fun because I had a Sky Striker, but fortunately when I was a kid, my cousin had broken it. But here's the other nunchaku that comes in the weapon storage pack. And we have another Uzi or someone, I don't know if this one's a Mac 10 or Uzi, but I think it's an Uzi. In the 80s, everybody had Uzis for some reason. Now for the weapons that came here with this version of Snake Eyes, it doesn't really match up because when I was a kid, I remember there was another version of Snake Eyes that came with this gun. And I think there was a third version of Snake Eyes that this one came with. And also came with this sword. So traditionally, this would not be the weapons that came with this version of Snake Eyes. So the backpack that came with this Snake Eyes, I believe, also belongs to the version 3 version of Snake Eyes. Now this is the Commando version of Snake Eyes, and the Commando version has goggles instead of his visor. That's iconic. And here's like a pouch that he comes with. I believe that would be for like extra magazines for his weapon. The original Snake Eyes, which is the Commando, which is the version that we have here, doesn't have any paint on him. He was just cast in black, and that's how he was done. But the finish on this one is more matte, whereas the original was more glossy. But this retains all of the details of the original version. And he has the same stuff on his bottom here that we saw with Storm Shadow. And he does have a stamp on his leg as well. To identify which model he is. And I suppose this was done so that those that are in the market looking for the original figures don't get confused with these versions and then get, tricked into buying these newer versions and paying more out of pocket than they should have. The different things that they did here with this model as well is they went ahead and used stronger plastics so that you wouldn't have a problem with the thumbs breaking off of the hands here. It's a little bit more flexible but stronger. You can see that Snake Eyes here is fully equipped. Different pouches and tools that he would need to do his job as Commando for G.I. Joe. The joints on these are actually pretty solid on this. It's not overly stiff, its tolerance just right, in my opinion. But I know that there's some reviewers that didn't have the same kind of results, so keep in mind that your mileage may vary depending on what you get. But put these on. This is kind of just how things went back then with his accessories, putting them on. Now these, like this and the sword, I believe are painted. These are not the original colors for the plastic. So putting them in and out of like his hands, I think over time might wear that out, but I haven't had that issue yet. Although these have primarily just been kind of sitting on my shelf just to be looked at. But they look really cool. I appreciate having them as options again. It's really something that gets that nostalgia flowing for me. And that's what I kind of love about collecting these different things. It's just, it reminds me of a time of when I was young and ignorant of all the things going on in the world, that I could just enjoy playing in the backyard with these toys, or having my friends come over and they can bring theirs, and then we would just have a mock-up battle. It's just dumb stories, but it was a lot of fun that we had as kids. I think these would be great for anybody that's looking for 3 3/4 inches to go ahead and complete their collection. You can find these still on Hasbro Pulse. They just had a sale, so maybe you got to take advantage of that. Otherwise, they do have more figures that they'll be releasing in the near future. I believe there's Duke and Cobra Commander, and there's a couple of troopers that you can start building an army of. But otherwise, I recommend them, and I'll check you out next time.